Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today, we're plunging into some really fascinating source material, distilling it into, well, practical insights for you.
That's right.
We're exploring a dialogue between two people from really different backgrounds, Leah, an educator in Canada, and Ravi, a journalist from India.
hmm
And their conversation, it gives us this remarkable look at gender roles today, how they're changing.
Yeah, and our mission really is to unpack that exchange.
Yeah.
We want to highlight the key points, sure, but also the nuances, the cultural context that shapes everything.
How does that context actually change how we see gender?
Exactly. And how can you use their insights to navigate these sometimes tricky social discussions? We want to help you grasp inclusive language, too.
So what's the takeaway for you listening? Well, we'll guide you through those shifting lines, what's seen as male or female behavior. Hopefully we'll hit some aha moments, making this complex stuff feel clear and relevant.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so right away, Leah and Ravi shit on something pretty significant. Gender roles are, well, they're shifting fast. Leah, speaking from Canada, she observed how those traditional lines seem to be getting blurrier.
Right. But what's interesting is Ravi, coming from India, immediately adds this layer of complexity. He's like, well, yes, but in some cultures, traditional roles are still incredibly deep-rooted.
Ah, okay. Influenced by things like family, religion.
Precisely. Powerful forces.
Oh.
So it immediately shows you progress isn't some uniform wave sweeping the globe. It's really uneven.
That tension right at the start is key then, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It sets the stage for understanding that gender roles isn't just one thing. It's this ongoing dialogue, different everywhere you look.
Constantly shifting dialogue. Yeah.
Okay, now, this next part. This is where they laid down some really essential groundwork. Definitions.
So important.
They didn't just skate over terms, they really dug into what key concepts actually mean, which you need for any kind of thoughtful discussion here, right?
Absolutely crucial. And what stood out was their focus on distinguishing gender identity from biological sex. They were really clear.
Okay, so break that down. Biological sex is...
That refers to the physical stuff, chromosomes, hormones, anatomy, observable characteristics.
Got it. And gender identity.
That's internal. As Leah put it, it's a deep personal sense of being male, female, both, neither. However you know yourself to be. It's not necessarily visible on the outside.
And they didn't stop there, did they? They talked about stereotypes.
Oh, yeah. They gave those sharp examples like men don't cry or the idea that women belong in the home. Really classic stereotypes.
Helps to make it concrete.
Definitely. And they also define terms like non-binary, someone whose identity isn't exclusively male or female, and cisgender, where your identity does align with the sex assigned at birth.
And gender expression, too. That's different again.
Right. That's just how you outwardly show your gender. Clothes, mannerisms, behavior. It's the external presentation.
So why drill down on these terms? Why is it so important?
Well, as they discussed, how society defines these roles, how it uses these terms, it has a massive impact on opportunities, on mental health, everything.
Right.
So understanding this vocabulary isn't just like academic, it's fundamental for having meaningful, respectful conversations.
Okay, so this part really gives you the tools, the precise words to actually engage in these discussions with more confidence.
Exactly. Clarity is key.
So once they had that foundation, the conversation really opened up into the cultural side of things, how context shapes everything.
Yeah, and Ravi's perspective from India was fascinating here. He described this really layered reality. You've got regions where traditional roles are super strong.
Like in villages, maybe, or certain communities.
Yeah, exactly. But then you also have these huge progressive movements, especially in the big cities. Think Mumbai, Delhi.
So it's not one simple picture, even within one country.
Not at all. He talked about how a young professional woman in Bangalore might experience gender completely differently than, say, her grandmother in a rural area. Really, when she asks, how does this specific cultural setting affect how quickly things change or how they change?
And Leah from Canada, she pointed out that even with, generally more openness, stereotypes are absolutely still there, especially at work.
She gave that example, didn't she? About women in STEM.
Yeah, a female engineer she knew who kept getting mistaken for the admin assistant in meetings, despite being the expert. It's subtle, but...
It adds up. And Robbie mentioned stay-at-home dads becoming more visible in urban India, but still facing judgment sometimes.
Right. Questions of their masculinity from older folks. It just shows how deep these expectations run, even when things seem to be changing.
It really does. And what's great about their dialogue is that spanning these different contexts, it gives you this global view on challenges that are actually quite universal.
Even in places we think of as progressive.
Exactly. Those ingrained expectations, they persist.
So this section really helps you, the listener, spot those sort of invisible cultural threads shaping how we see gender, not just somewhere else, but maybe in your own backyard too.
Definitely worth thinking about.
Okay, so then they shifted focus a bit. They looked at the progress made, sure, but also the challenges still ahead. Leah mentioned things like legal protections, right? Anti-discrimination laws in Canada.
Yeah, which is clear progress. You need those frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
But Ravi's point here was so crucial, I thought. He highlighted this disconnect. Changing laws, okay, that's one step. Changing mindsets, that's a whole different ballgame. Much, much slower.
Oh, that's huge. He gave an example, didn't he? Like a company with great policies on paper.
Exactly. Impeccable diversity policies. But subtle biases still affected who got promoted. A kind of hidden barrier. It really forces the question, how do you shift those deeply embedded attitudes? It's not just about rules.
So what did they suggest? How do you change mindsets?
Well, they talked about the power of education, obviously. And the media, how it portrays gender, generational shifts play a role too. Younger people often see things differently.
And they came back to language again.
Yes, the importance of using inclusive language, not just to be polite, but as an active way to nudge those attitudes along.
Okay, so the takeaway is laws are essential, but not enough on their own.
Precisely. Real transformation needs that deeper shift in how people actually perceive and interact around gender every day. It's about hearts and minds, really.
So for you listening, it's not just thinking about what's changed, but what still needs to change and what helps or hinders that.
The force is driving it, yeah.
Right. And finally, they got really practical, which I loved. They offered actual communication tips, how to navigate these often sensitive chats respectfully.
Yeah, this is super useful. They really emphasized avoiding gendered assumptions. Little things that make a difference.
Like saying police officer instead of policeman.
Exactly, or firefighter. Simple shifts. And they also talked about using they as a singular pronoun.
Which is becoming more common.
Right. And it's not just grammar, it's respect. Using it when you don't know someone's pronouns, or if that's the pronoun they use for themselves, it signals openness.
And they shared phrases for when you disagree. That can be tricky territory.
Really helpful ones, like, okay, I can see where you're coming from, or that's an interesting way to put it. Or just framing your own view with, well, in my experience.
It keeps the conversation going, doesn't it? Rather than just shutting it down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It creates space. And they also encouraged asking open-ended questions.
Oh.
Things like, how does this look in your culture? Or simply, what's your take on this? It invites sharing and thinking rather than just stating positions.
Fosters understanding, even when you don't fully agree.
Precisely. Thoughtful communication.
So this last part is really about equipping you with practical tools. Not just to understand, but to actually participate in these conversations effectively with diplomacy.
Making you a better communicator on these topics, yeah.
So, as Leah and Ravi wrapped up their discussion, their final thoughts really brought it together. The main takeaway seemed to be, it's not about erasing tradition, necessarily.
No, not at all.
But about ensuring equality and respect within our societies, letting everyone flourish.
Finding that harmony, yeah.
Yeah.
And Ravi made that great point that just having these kinds of open, nuanced conversations, that's actually part of the change itself. This whole deep dive into their chat really shows you how dynamic gender roles are, how much culture shapes them, the power of using language carefully.
And that ongoing journey towards, well, a more inclusive understanding for everyone.
That's definitely a journey.
So thinking about everything Leah and Ravi discussed, here's maybe a final thought for you to consider. Looking at your own life, your own community, where do you see the biggest opportunities? Opportunities to maybe gently challenge or perhaps thoughtfully affirm how we currently understand gender roles. And how could open, respectful conversation, like the kind they advocated for, actually help move things forward right where you are?